What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for Your Overwatch. Jeff Kaplan did a big interview with IGN that clarifies and expands on a lot of the information that was given about Overwatch 2 and as well Overwatch 1 at BlizzCon. He says explicitly in the interview, but I also thought it was apparent just with the presentation itself, that the original 2019 reveal of Overwatch 2 was miscommunicated. And if they had just said simply that they're making a sequel, everyone would have known what they meant. But since they added that little bit of complexity that they're trying to redefine the sequel, well, then we all got confused. Especially when the content they had to show way back in 2019 didn't seem to prop that up. But over the past couple years, I paid really close attention to the words they used back then at that BlizzCon, and I think all of their aspirations for the sense of scale that we got in the presentation this BlizzCon weekend, they did lay out back then in 2019. They just didn't have anything to show to really prove it. So we've explained this many times on the channel, but I think it's finally put to rest when we've seen that Overwatch 2 is both like a Diablo-esque version of Overwatch, while also planning to expand and build out the Overwatch 1 game a bit more. But even that still gets a little bit confusing, and Jeff in the interview explains a bit more how this simultaneous development is going to go on. He explains to IGN that there is a few different versions of upgrades that they're looking to do to the PvP, and a couple things that may hold back new content and features until the sequel, but they're going to try their best to put whatever they can into the live service game right now. He says, quote, "Our general thought and philosophy is we shouldn't just arbitrarily hold things back for Overwatch 2 that would benefit Overwatch. We should try to get those out to our community as soon as possible." But at the same time, he goes to explain that there can be technical limitations, like the updated engine that they can't just put in without the sequel, but also the psychology standpoint, as he calls it, that the community will be more accepting of radical changes to the game when the sequel does come. Jeff uses the recent Priority Pass as an example of something that, since they're working on it anyway during Overwatch 2, why not just put it into Overwatch 1? Now, Overwatch 1 fans like us wish that there was even more content than that, but we can at least rest assured that in a case-by-case basis, anything that can go into Overwatch 1, they will put in sooner rather than later. So that might mean there's more new things down the line that they haven't discussed yet, but obviously if there was going to be a suite of new heroes for the next year or something, they would have announced that at BlizzCon. So I'd expect small incremental features, if anything, for the next year, similar in the scale of the Priority Pass system. Jeff gets asked about crossplay for Overwatch. Jeff responds in saying that they are excited at this idea, but do not confirm or deny if they are going to include it in the sequel. He says they are interested in exploring it if they can overcome the tech hurdles, saying, quote, "In general, our thought is any system the game can adequately run on, and any way that people can play with their friends, even just for reasons of improving the matchmaking experience, we're very excited about those ideas." So I take this to mean that they're striving towards that. A lot of other games do this as well. It's kind of an industry standard at this point, but based on his language, I would say it's not a top priority for them. So that means maybe it will get allocated dev time later in development or even post-release, if that's even possible. It's hard to know what they're really capable of with their new expanded dev team, beyond what they've shown us, which is a pretty awesome PvE game. Jeff gets asked about the hero missions that they did explain at the BlizzCon presentation sneak peek. Jeff replies in saying that in 2019, the Rio campaign mission they showed didn't seem to look like something you could have be endlessly replayable. And they said, yeah, we agree. We don't think you're going to play that for thousands of hours. That's not the goal. Instead, it's these Overwatch 2 hero missions that they think are going to fulfill that need of giving you a lot of RPG gameplay replayability. So from their mind, the campaign is a once-through thing, and hero missions, as Aaron Keller explained it in the sneak peek, are looking to have hundreds of variations on them to make them more complicated or challenging, to give that replayability as you work through the RPG progressions for your character, which is something we'll get to in a moment. Jeff goes on to explain the 4 different factors that are looking to amp up that hero mission effect. First of all, you can play any combination of heroes. In the campaign, they may not even have all of the heroes. In fact, he almost guarantees that there won't be, because 32 heroes, it's hard to get a unique storyline for all of them in the campaign, so he doesn't promise that. However, you will be able to mix and match to your heart's desire for hero missions, which will have almost raid-esque modifiers attached to them that they've already shown, and 4 different axes to vary up the gameplay. One is you'll be fighting different enemy types, Null Sector, Talon, and maybe others that have yet to be released. They went into lots of depth into this in the sneak peek, showing off like mobs of enemies, elites, how the enemies interact and blow up and respond to the player's attacks. All that I thought looked really good and reminded me of Diablo and Destiny put together. And the other 2 axes Jeff explained will modify hero missions are the locations themselves, saying that they're gonna have a lot of maps for it, saying, quote, we have a really robust map catalog from Overwatch 1, but also new maps from Overwatch 2. Not just the PvP ones, but the PvE ones. So a lot of variation there. And the 4th axis is the different objective types. As an example, protect the satellite uplink dish, or sometimes things more aggressive in nature, such as there's a poison cloud coming our way, we've got to get out, get to extraction. He continues in saying, quote, we're hoping to come up with as many objectives as possible. Then Jeff goes on to explain the RPG progression system, where you'll level your heroes up. They showed the skill trees on screen and they look expansive. I was impressed with how many talents they actually had, especially comparing to other games that a lot of people love, but the likes of Borderlands and Destiny often, in my opinion, were always very short on the ability diversity in comparison to the likes of Diablo. Jeff goes to explain that you'll get those talents, you'll get more base stats as you continue to level up, but there's also elements of the progression system that they've yet to announce. And he does go to compare to Diablo or World of Warcraft and says, quote, in some ways, those games are almost driven mostly by the progression systems, even more than just the core combat, and seems to have quite a bit of confidence, saying, like, we've done this before, which is what I felt like I've been trying to tell everybody for the past couple years with this. Jeff finishes in saying that by the time they're done with it, it's going to be a pretty rich and deep experience. As an example, they did show off what they called the Snowplow Soldier 76 build, but in the IGN interview, Jeff actually says that that build was so OP they already got rid of it, but left it in the presentation just as a work in progress to give you an idea of what they're trying to work with. Instead, he goes on to explain one that sounds like it's staying, that perked my ears up right away, explaining that Junkrat has a talent where you can dual wield grenade launchers. And Jeff asks himself, how can that even be balanced to not be super broken? But when he tested it out, he said he recorded his gameplay back because he was laughing so hard. And the dev team was laughing so hard and having so much fun. So it seems like that one is probably staying, as Jeff calls it, balanced and fun and super cool. Another build, Reinhardt Wrecking Ball, as he calls it, which is the build you put on when you want to say to your team, quote, I hope you never want to see the shield again because you're not going to see it when I'm playing this build. And it's all about aggression and the hammer. And then on the exact opposite side of that, there's a Reinhardt build where the shield is all of the power, up to and including that you can actually make the shield bigger. Jeff says it really lets player creativity and player playstyle preference dictate how they want to play the hero, which is pretty fun. He goes on to comment about the Overwatch 2.0 PvP rework of tanks, and says they've even tossed around the idea of renaming the category or role of tank to Brawler to better set expectations for how the characters should play. Because right now, a lot of players just want to hide behind a Reinhardt shield and get annoyed if a tank player doesn't play Reinhardt or ever puts the shield down to swing. That doesn't feel very fun from the tank point of view. And Jeff says, quoting a typical player comment, well, I didn't feel like just holding right mouse button down all night. That wasn't my idea of how I wanted to play Overwatch, but feels forced to, so they're rethinking how that works for PvP. And that's the type of change that they're considering for Overwatch 2 to indicate that it's a new game, it's updated, but it's also kind of a drastic expectations shift, the type that he doesn't say explicitly in the interview, but you can piece it together. They wouldn't want to just put in before Overwatch 2, at least it sounds like. Even though they've kind of already done that a little bit, as I said in my previous video, but on top of that, it looks like Reinhardt only had 800 shield health health in PvP, which is half of what it is right now. That's outrageous. You can see why when they want to make that level of drastic change that is going to just alter how everyone experiences the game, they want to wait till Overwatch 2 to do that. Now, a question that I'm sure is on many of your minds is, will they ever bring these crazy, wacky talents into PvP, even if it's just in a less competitive setting? Now, Jeff is of the opinion that it would have to be in a completely non-competitive setting. Now, they have talked about this as an option. Jeff says that he thinks these hero talents would just be horribly broken to play against in PvP. But he is open to allowing players to try to find the fun, if they can find the fun in that. So perhaps we might see some arcade modes or custom game options that allow, you know, your Super Reinhardt to go up against my dual-wielding Junkrat double grenade launchers. It would be completely nonsense, but judging by how the community likes Tiny Overwatch, Mystery Heroes, and modes like Total Mayhem, I'm sure somebody is going to get a blast out of just having completely outrageous abilities in a PvP type context, even if it's not intended for competitive. I would like to go at greater length at the competitive flexibility that a more complicated build system could have on the competitive game. It really would afford some of the strategy diversity that MOBA games have. It would be more knobs of balance for them to tune, but at the same time, all the talents are intended to just be outrageous in power. So on one hand, it might be an interesting way to vary up your play experience in PvP. On the other hand, the abilities we're talking about are completely over the top on purpose, which is something that they go at further length to discuss, that since they know that the AI that you're fighting in PvE don't write on the forums, you can abuse them with whatever outrageous over the top abilities, and that's really opened up their creativity to give you some really cool things to play with for Overwatch 2's PvE. Another consideration they said was performance, keeping in mind that Overwatch runs on multiple platforms, and that could be an issue. Like, how many of these super powered hero abilities can even be displayed on screen on the Switch, right? Jeff gets asked if they'll be able to play the PvE offline with AI teammates, or even just solo, or is Overwatch 2 going to still definitely be an online team game? Jeff responds in saying, it's kind of both. It's definitely an online cooperative story experience, but they also are working on friendly AI. Jeff says that if a player lags out, they don't want to ruin the experience for the other three players, so it's something that they want to try to do, but make no promises. Possibly the most important announcement in all of this is Jeff distinctly saying that they are not going dark like they did in 2019. They are very much in the light now, and we can expect semi-regular updates on Overwatch 2, saying that maybe there could be some cool stuff they could talk about in March or April to keep people updated, saying, quote, it's very front and center in our mind to communicate more. Jeff expands on the announcement from the Activision Blizzard shareholder meeting that confirmed Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 wouldn't be coming out this year, and seems to feel relieved that that eases the expectations and tension off of him and the dev team. And Jeff says that now people won't be like, oh my god, that means we're in beta in May and the release is in June. He says, no, it's out there that it's not happening. So let's all get our expectations aligned. But says that they definitely want to be more communicative and transparent with the development of Overwatch 2 as we get into the closing out of the game. Well, guys, it's everything for the big Jeff Kaplan IGN interview. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How optimistic are you about the state of Overwatch? Let me know. Yes, we're not going to be getting major things for Overwatch 1, but will the more short-term development plan for Overwatch 2 put you a bit more at ease, with some light at the end of the tunnel for when we know big things are coming? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out, lets us know that you're enjoying the content, and if you haven't already, click subscribe and be sure to hit the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter. Check us out there. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for Your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.